Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. No, just kidding.
Well, a little bit. No, a little bit.
A little bit. Howdy, folks. Happy Friday. We are back. It is 2020. And if I see one more GIF of Barbara Walters on Facebook or Twitter,
I haven't seen any.
Oh, I've seen a ton.
Okay.
Because she did the show with Hugh Downs 2020, so everybody's using that as the GIF. Like, I'm Baba Wawa, and this is 2020. Whatever.
I was just like really roaring 20s. We couldn't come up with anything better.
No. Yeah, all we need now is a drunk Warren Harding as our president. Oh, wait a second. That's pretty close. Okay. Boy. All right, we're going to do some pre-show stuff, and it may include some spoilers of some movies that are out for Christmas. So if you didn't see them, too freaking bad. Go ahead, Russ.
You waited too long. So interestingly enough, I just read that back for Return of the Jedi, that Ian McDiarmid, who plays Palpatine, Emperor Palpatine, wasn't in the original plan for the theatrical cut. And they had somebody named Marjorie something play the actual character and some man doing the voice. And the issue is, because there was such a big Palpatine role in the third act of Return of the Jedi, that they decided to, at the last minute, change it to McDiarmid. And who knew all these years later that would become an integral part in the new movie. And it just goes to show you how it's easy, like it's not easy to plan for these things. Like we talked about with all the Avengers movies, right? Like when you have to plan for all of that, there's a lot of things that go wrong. People die.
Yes.
And you don't know if technology can change that. When they first started Star Wars, you didn't know that they would be able to bring people back with technology. You always just assumed it would just be a hologram thing like they did back in the day when Alec Guinness died.
Right.
So, but this is an amazing thing because Ian McDiarmid is still alive and did still make it in the last one. And people do believe it would have changed things forever if he was not in Return of the Jedi, which I kind of have to agree with that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm with the Harry Potter movies. Richard Harris was the original. I'm drawing a blank on the main character. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, and everybody else does. But
I've never seen Harry Potter, but I know who Richard Harris is.
Well, Richard Harris was, and then he was replaced by Michael Gambon. He was the main old character. I'm sorry, I know who it is. I'm just, somebody in the chat will probably say it.
Yeah, they'll know.
I'll punch myself. Yeah.
Somebody in the chat will definitely know.
Yeah, it's early stage senility here, Kev. I'm sorry, it just happens. But no, you actually, I think sometimes when they change the original, like for example, I'll go to Star Trek. I loved the original series, but one of the things that was great about the original series was that the special effects were so bad that it was humorous.
Right.
So when they put the Star Trek original series, I think it was on DVD, they updated like my favorite episode is called the Doomsday Machine, when this planet gobbling machine cutting up planets and attacks another starship and starts attacking the Enterprise. And in the original series, it basically looked like ice cream cone that was firing out fire. That's how bad it was. It looked really bad. Right. And then when they put it out, they had like laser beams, and it was it took away from the sort of campiness of the original series. It's like, just leave it alone.
Yeah, I'll say this. I agree with that. I never saw like the Star Wars with the added effects. I never went in a movie theater for it. I never bought them because I liked it the way it was. But I will tell you, years ago, they really just took people for fools. Perfect example is the makers of Bewitched when they tried to change Dick York for Dick Sargent. Like, I don't know what they thought, and I guess they felt like people didn't care enough about the show to realize that the actor for Darren had changed completely.
No,
right. I was young. I was probably 10 years old, and I was like, what the hell's going on here?
What it was, Russ, is that everybody was looking at Elizabeth Montgomery, and nobody cared who Darren was.
But Kevin was around then. Kevin, what was your?
Yeah, no,
it was around that.
I had the same reaction. But what's interesting about that is now through the years, like we've had several different James Bonds, and we're not bothered by that. But at a TV series, I think it was it was a little bit different to say the least. But
we had problems when it was Timothy Dalton.
Yeah, but they keep switching, people. Now Daniel Craig is done, and the franchise is not done. So
right.
We'll just keep marching on, and we'll keep showing up for sure.
Well, how do you explain, Kev? How will you explain to your grandchildren that James Bond is 115 years old and 5 different guys?
Yeah, I don't think it'll ever come up. That would be my guess.
I think that's what every parent and grandparent thinks for a lot of subjects, and they do come up. It's going to come up.
Well, what's interesting though, I agree with what Mike said about the campiness of Star Trek, and the show for me that's like that was Lost in Space.
Yes.
And what's interesting about that is I do watch now the new Lost in Space.
I do too.
Which is very sophisticated and quite enjoyable and completely different. Like, in the old Lost in Space, the warning, it was just kind of silly.
Yeah.
And now the robot is a little bit scary, and there's multiple robots, and the plot lines are sophisticated, and there's a lot more people. And this is one case, I think, where the newer show is much better than the original.
No, I agree. But I'll tell you what drew me to the newer show. It was almost like brainwashing. When I heard the theme song, I was like, all right, I have to watch it. I didn't realize how much as a little kid that I liked that theme song. Now, years later, I review a lot of products, right? So I was at a show and I met Bill Mumy, and Bill Mumy was putting out an album, and he said, please review this. And I was like, okay. He gave me the CD, and when I reviewed it, I did not give it a positive review. And the little kid in me felt bad that I had to give a bad review for Bill Mumy, who I liked as Will Robinson, and he's a great guy.
Yeah, I mean, nothing is bad as the William Shatner album where he does McCarthy Park.
It's up there, Mike. And I felt bad because he's a really good guy, but I really loved him as a TV character as a kid. I was like his same age.
Oh my God. Anyway. Yeah. All right, let's get started. Lots of hockey stuff to talk about. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Friday, January 3rd, 2020.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology, and it's just another week.
Kevin Allen here.
And I'm Michael Magello, and Eklund will be joining us shortly, and this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzzcast.com. Well, the phone is ringing off the hook for Kev.
Now that I'm unemployed, it seems like everyone returns my call. I don't know what that's all about.
They figure that you have some time right now, Kev.
Now they want to talk to me. I think they want to talk to me because I don't have any place to write it. So I
hope it's not the people from Life Alert. That's all.
Yeah.
Or it's Ed McMahon telling you.
Ed McMahon's not around, Mike.
Though I will say this because so many people have asked me. There was a cliche that you've heard when you were young, and you kind of snickered at, which was, people would say, I don't know how now that I'm retired, I don't know how I ever found time to work because I'm so busy. And, since I've lost my job, I find that I have so little time because I got so much, going on. I'm obviously looking for another job, because I'm not working. There are greater expectations at home. So, you try to fit it all in, and the next thing you know, your day's gone, and you say, just what happened,
That's a good thing.
And I'm still trying to keep current with hockey. And then I feel like I'm off, so I should take time out and watch a bowl game here and there, or whatever it is that I'm interested in. I've doubled my movie, watching. I think I'd only seen like 3 movies at the theater, and now I've seen 3 in the last 3 weeks.
Well, let me ask you about that, since because I've now it's getting to like Oscar season, Golden Globe season. What's the best that you've seen in the last couple weeks?
Well, I mean, I went to movies where because other people wanted to go, so I saw the Star Wars movie because my son wanted to see it, and people had told me that it had not good reviews, but I enjoyed it.
We enjoyed it.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm not. I guess I'm not hardcore enough into my Star Wars watching that I don't really care that her training to be a Jedi wasn't long enough.
Right.
And some of the other things that bothered people didn't bother me. I thought, it had a little love story at the end, and everything was good. And I found it.
I think it was just what you wanted it to be, considering we were following it for 40 years.
Yeah. And then the other one, I went with my wife and daughter. I saw Little Women, and what I was interested in that is I had followed Greta Gerwig's career. She was an independent filmmaker, and I saw a lot of her early films, and I thought she was terrific, and I thought she was going to make it big. So it feels like I kind of discovered her. So now that she's made it big, I want to see all of her movies. But
that's a remake, right? Wasn't that movie like a long time ago?
Yeah, I think there was one in the 30s that
in
goes.
the 30s,
I think the 30s one was Katharine Hepburn, and there was one in the 50s with Winona Ryder.
But this sticks to the book, and I thought it was a good film, and I thought everyone did a good job. Now I'm trying to think of what other movie.
Well, the one I'm looking forward to is 1917. It's not out.
I'm very excited about that. I will tell you this to give a review. I've watched a lot of movies on like Netflix, and one of them I watched is T-34. Now, it's a Russian tank movie.
Yeah.
That's all I need to tell you. So it was actually produced in Russia. It's dubbed, but it's okay. Okay. And it's about, and the premise of it is so incredible, but I guess it's sort of based on a true story. But a Russian tank crew that's captive is going to be used by the German troops to kind of train German tanks. They're going to put them in a tank and then let them run around, and they don't get any ammo, and the German tanks get to shoot at them. So
target practice, nice.
Well, and then somehow they figure out how to get away, and then they're on the run, and they're trying to break out and get back to a neutral country. And it was actually an entertaining movie. I enjoyed it.
I'll tell you the best movie that I've seen on any of the services, but I don't have Disney Plus, so if you're expecting something from that, I don't have it. I think Six Underground, and I'm not usually a Michael Bay fan, but that movie was really good. Ryan Reynolds was really good in that, and it was for a Netflix movie. Like, we are now starting to see movies on digital services that never make it to the movies that are better than movies in the theaters.
Hell, two of the Netflix movies are leading contenders for the Oscars. I mean, Marriage Story, who's
I've seen that. That's very good. The report. Yeah, I haven't seen yet, and I hear I've seen two lists that said that is the best movie that's come out this season.
I think that's an Amazon Prime one. That's what the Netflix. Oh, yeah. But
I haven't seen that one yet either.
And The Irishman, obviously.
I have seen The Irishman as well, and that's fantastic.
I saw The Irishman. Okay, now Kev, did you watch it in one sitting, or did you pause it?
No, I watched it all the way through. Yeah, I don't.
I paused it a couple times and came back to it. I really did like it. I felt like, look, was it the best movie that Al Pacino's ever done? No, it was probably not the best movie that any of them ever did. Right. But I think it fit well together.
Yeah, well, I just wish they would have done it 10 years ago. That's the only critique I have, when they were a little younger.
Oh, I wasn't. I thought that they would actually fit the characters better. But what I saw from that is they were able to get all these actors, because it's really an actor's vehicle. It's set up for these actors to really do what they do best, and every one of them is good. Yeah. There's no performance in there where you think, wow, that guy's weak. That guy doesn't fit. He's not selling me. They're all just terrific in what they do. I thought Joe Pesci in particular was, it didn't even look like him. They just did a phenomenal job. And because I have grown up in Michigan and I know the Jimmy Hoffa story, it was particularly relevant to me.
Well, I think they did shine a little bit of light on the ending of Jimmy Hoffa, more than I had heard or seen before.
Well, that's just one of the theories. There's a lot of people that don't actually subscribe that that's actually true.
There's one that says he's under the Meadowlands.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of different theories. But the guy who wrote the book, The Irishman, he wrote that book first, and it didn't sell. And then he went back in and put in the Jimmy Hoffa stuff, and suddenly it really sold.
Right.
And so there are people that believe that he just kind of added to that, and there's some people, there was supposedly someone in Michigan that knew, and there, the FBI, thought that he would tell them on his deathbed, but he didn't. He never revealed the information. Now, what the FBI says, and they've been quoted in Michigan papers, is that they have a pretty good read on what they think has happened to him, but they can't prove it, and therefore they haven't revealed it. Yeah, it's still sealed now. At some point, it will be. At some point,
it'll get unsealed, though.
Yeah, at some point it will be unsealed, but they feel like they know what happened.
All right, let's talk some hockey here. The news of the day was the signing of Ilya Kovalchuk by the Montreal Canadiens. Kevin, not surprising in the sense that the Canadiens have a string of injuries: Drouin, Armia, Byron, latest being Brendan Gallagher with a concussion. They're falling out of the race. I believe they're at 42. They're 9 points behind Toronto in second place in the Atlantic. I personally thought that Montreal was a borderline team this year, but they needed to stay healthy, and they're not healthy. So this is a low risk move. If it works, it's great. If it's not, if it doesn't work, it's a two-way contract. They can bury him in Laval, or he'll retire again.
Yeah, no, I there's no criticism that can be directed to the Canadiens over this.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I think this is a perfect situation for them. They get to roll the dice here with no risk whatsoever.
I think there's risk to the locker room, Kev. Like, I think
you're going to say that, and yet I just watched a television show where people gave all this testimony about what a great guy he is. The guys who played with him.
People who lived next door to Ted Bundy said he was a great guy too.
Pardon me?
People who lived next door to Ted Bundy said he was a great guy too.
That's a cliche that's used often for people that don't have anything else to say.
Oh.
But the truth is, now saying all that, I've heard that as well. But I just watched the hockey show, and the guy told the incredible story about how he showed up, and Kovalchuk, he had no sticks, and Kovalchuk said, "Here, take 6 of mine," and then everyone else chimed in and said there was a period when he, the joke was Ilya Kovalchuk party of one in Atlanta, and then there was a period when he just changed and he became the nicest guy in the world. And
will he try and deflect one Shea Weber shot? I don't think so.
But there's no risk here. Like, I don't think he's going to dominate the locker room. I mean,
No. But what I'm saying is, you have to make great concessions to fit him even on your power play. Look how lousy the Kings' power play was with Ilya Kovalchuk.
Well,
and you have to make concessions to put him on it.
Well, right now, no concessions have to be made because most of the top 6 of the Canadiens are on the injured list. I mean,
except for Shea Weber, that's my point. Is Ilya Kovalchuk is going to look to be fed the most on that power play, and if he doesn't score a ton of goals, then all of a sudden it becomes like a frustrating thing. The other thing that kind of worried me is, I don't know if you guys saw that picture on TSN. That looked like Ilya Kovalchuk's father. It looked like he's aged 10 years in 2.
Come on, Russ. He's frosting. He's frosting.
Yeah, well, I mean, it may not work out. I mean, Russ, you could be right, but I just don't see where the risk is here. I don't think, even if he was a bad guy, I don't think at this point in the season that he's going to turn over and create a problem in the dressing room. Not coming in.
No, he probably won't. I mean, I think there's too much focus on him, whether it's his fault or not. Well, and I think that unless he comes through, that Montreal press is going to eat him alive.
Well, what I'm surprised at mildly, Kev, is that a contending team, especially with the fact that Kovalchuk would only cost $700,000 prorated, wouldn't have taken a chance on him. Apparently, from what I understand from the reports after he signed, Montreal thought about it, said, nah, then the injuries happened, and they said, why not? What the hell?
Right.
And I'm like, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, the way you set this trade up is that, I mean, this is a what the hell trade. We might as well try it. I mean, if he's not that far removed. I mean, it's 2020, so a year and a half, or almost 2 full years from, the way he played at the 2018 Olympics. And he looked there like he could score. I'll
wait until Montreal comes through, and I'll ask Pat Hickey, and he'll tell me the lowdown.
Okay.
Well, because that'll be like a few weeks or a month into it, and then I'll have a good idea.
If he's still there, because this might be a stopgap thing for 3 weeks. That's the thing.
If it doesn't work, I think that they will bury him. I don't. I think they'll take a look and see if he fits and see if he can score some goals. And and we've seen so often with guys fit sometimes with one team but not with another, and vice versa. So,
we're joined back.
You've missed a good start to the show. Russ compared Ilya Kovalchuk to Ted Bundy.
Usually I'm the one,
but okay.
Usually I'm the one who goes a little above and beyond.
No.
What could go wrong with that, Russ?
You had to be there. It wasn't a straight comparison.
It's a New Year.
It was not.
I have not seen Ted Bundy take a slap shot. I didn't want to say anything else, but I've not seen him ever take a slap shot.
We just talked about Kovalchuk, and like I said, I consider this a complete no lose for Montreal because they, it's a two-way deal. They can send him down to Laval if it doesn't work out, or they can do that when their injured players come back. So I think this is okay. It's okay. It's understandable.
It's kind of funny, like a two-way deal with the same contract in both places. Is that really a two-way deal? I mean,
no, and he would
no. He's not getting 700. It's.
I heard it was 700,000 in both.
No, 70,000 in the AHL.
That's a one-way. If it's 700 in both places, that's a one-way. If it's 700,
right, it's not a one-way.
Yeah, I think
it's not a one-way. But are you sure it's not the same contract in the same place?
It's not. I heard it was 70,000.
Oh, it's 70,000.
Yeah, but he'll never play in the AHL, so it doesn't.
No, of course, he'd never go there. That's okay. Okay, I misunderstood that. Then that makes sense. The one thing I'll say about this is, not to compare him to Ted Bundy. I'm going to try something a little bit different than that. I'm going to go with Alexei Kovalev, who I sort of compared him to today, and Kovalev was better than Kovalchuk when he went to Montreal. Still, he had more left in his game, and he wasn't, but he'd also had some places where he'd gone and been a disaster, like Kovalchuk just had in LA. That had happened in different places, right? And with Kovalev, it really worked in Montreal. Like it just, and I think there is something different about Montreal than any other city, and perhaps this is something that like a Russian can wrap his hands around. I don't know. Maybe it's a really good gamble.
I'll tell you the only difference, because I know Kovalev really well. Believe it or not, he was like almost like having another coach on the team.
Yeah,
he was not smart and would coach up a lot of guys. I don't know. Is Claude Julien going to let Kovalchuk do that? I don't know.
No. I mean,
I
think it's different in that way, but there is something to the Russian, Kovalchuk likes to be revered, he likes to be, he definitely has an ego to him, no questions asked, right? As all hockey players do, but some Russian hockey players, have like a different kind, like he wants to be revered. I think him playing again in the NHL is part of that. I think part of it is just his ego, like saying, I'm not going to go out on that, I'm not going to go out on that tone. So I think he has more potential to be revered in Montreal maybe than most places, because they can fall in love with players there, and they can really,
Fans, what about the media, Eck? If he doesn't produce pretty quickly there, I think the media would be very tough on him.
Yeah, I think now the media is tough on everybody in Montreal, so I don't think it's much. I mean, and how much do you expect him to produce for 700,000? What is
the money's irrelevant. They need goals out of him.
Right.
Yeah. No, I think the money is irrelevant in a lot of ways. But I also think that this is a guy who has more of like a European mentality. He's flashy. There's no question about that. He has the ability to be, to make some pretty spectacular plays. Even still, he still has, we don't know how much speed he has left in the tank, but he's still, even in LA when he first started there, he had some moments where he looked, like flat. I wouldn't be too surprised if he comes in and has a couple really good games. If I'm Kovalchuk's agent, I'm telling him just go into Montreal and just do something spectacular and something really, really awesome at a high speed, and they will fall in love with you immediately, kind of thing.
Well, the high speed might be a problem.
I know he's not that. He doesn't. And Kovalev is, like I said, Kovalev was further along, but the way Kovalev was viewed, I mean, you saw him in New York, Russ. They tried to run him out of town on a rail in New York, and in Montreal they were holding rallies the fans were holding rallies to try to keep him. So it was a few, and they were very years after that.
Yeah, Love was a great stick handler, and the great fans in Montreal, appreciated his skill. I think we're probably getting too deep into this. I think that
I'm sure we are.
I think they'll bring him in and they'll see what he can do. And it may not, as Mike said, it may not be a long time. They may know right away whether it works or not.
Kev, I wanted to ask you about this as soon as the incident happened, because I know that you know John Tortorella pretty well.
I do. Yeah.
And honestly, I thought that the treatment that he got from the NHL in terms of the fine and the following fine that's sort of hanging over his head like a sword of Damocles, that if he basically opens his mouth one more time in a calendar year, he's going to get a $25,000 fine. He was right.
He was right.
He was right about the criticism of what the NHL did, not putting the time back on, that Columbus got screwed out of a goal, and then because they had to go to a shootout, Korpisalo got hurt. He was right. Does that even matter to the NHL?
I think it does, but I'm not. First of all, I'm not sure that they would admit they were wrong. But
right.
Where he goes wrong is, even if he is right, that's just not the forum to. And I thought it was calculated. I thought he was trying to rile up his team.
Yeah.
I thought he was trying to tell, his team, I got your back. Because they've played very well lately.
They have.
And I think he just wanted to show them, I'm with you, boys.
Yeah.
And I felt, and everybody was down. I also think he was frustrated by the injury. I think they didn't know how well Elvis could perform. It's turned out he's been good in his 2 games, but they didn't know that because he hadn't played well when they had tried him before. And I think that was total frustration and then somewhat calculated because I think he wanted to tell his team, I'm with you on this. But the way to handle that, if you believe, I think if he had gone in and made a good case, for what happened and explained it all and had written a memo, he would have gotten further then. You think referees now when they go in there are going to be feeling real, pro John Tortorella? I don't think so.
Mike and I were talking about this. We think there's a chance, because this has been a frustrating season for John and he has held it in, that towards the end of the season, he might give a $50,000 rant and only pay the $25,000 because they've already predetermined it. I don't think that's out of the question.
Maybe. I thought this one was kind of a controlled explosion, like something that topples a defunct arena or like he set his charges and then he pushed the button and then he stood back.
And then don't you think he's gotten smarter with age and knows?
Yeah, because we've seen him when he's really off the rails, and this one just seemed like he said his piece. He used cuss words for exclamation points and emphasis, and then then he kind of stepped back. But the other issue about John Tortorella is he's done this enough now that it's like the boy who cried wolf.
That's true.
Sure. But what about the other issue? I think Torts aside, let's push Torts aside and say, are they going to start doing this with players? If they did this with a coach, why aren't they putting a future bounty on Tom Wilson for the next bad thing he does?
Well, first of all, you're limited to what you can do to a player by the CBA.
Yeah. Well, there's no coach in the CBA.
Yeah. So you're not limited with coaches. So
I've noticed Torts has like 3 different kinds of rants like over the years. I might be at least 3, but these are the 3 that I've seen. And see if you want to add to these or anything. Like he has the rant when the press conference rant where he sits up there and either just says nothing or says things in such an obnoxious way that he really doesn't. It's like the silent rant that he has, which is just completely like whatever. And that tends to be thrown at the media, but aimed at his GM. I've noticed there's a thing where he gets most frustrated, I think, when he feels like he doesn't have the players to do what he wants to do. And I feel like the Torts definitely has and he'll never, of course, ever. He's the company person, will never say my GM's not giving me the players I need. And in Columbus's situation, where you've had players leave that have really the GM couldn't do anything about because it had nothing to do with them anyway. But he has he definitely doesn't feel like he's got the players. I've been waiting for that kind of Tortorella rant, like the I don't have the players rant.
He won't say he doesn't have the players, but he will call out players. I mean, he killed Anthony Duclair to the point where he said he can't play in the NHL, and Anthony Duclair is an all-star now. So I think Torts can go horribly wrong with that sometime.
Yeah, I know he does. But he has this thing where he goes after the team, but that's usually like the opposite. That's a very verbal rant, like as opposed to a quiet rant. He'll go verbally at, he'll say it in the press conference. He'll talk to anyone who will listen, kind of thing. He'll get that out too.
Yeah,
but then there's the passive aggressive Tortorella, which is a completely different. Which I don't know what that's another that he knows he's going. That's what this felt like a little bit to me. He knows he's going to get punished for it, so he's just going to say it and do the best he can to say it anyway.
As a fellow hot-headed Italian, he may be hot-headed, but he's not stupid. He's not going to attack Yarmo or the Columbus Blue Jackets organization because they'll fire his ass.
He never has. He never really has. I don't remember him ever even in anywhere he's been gone after. But he's definitely said things under his breath that this is the bit. I can only do right.
And remember, he got a contract extension a month or so before the end of the season last year, I believe. And he knew the direction they were going. They sold out for Duchesne. They sold out for Dzingel. They knew they weren't going to re-sign Panarin and Bobrovsky. He knew this team was going to be not bereft of talent, but severely limited in terms of talent going into this year. He got his contract. I think he's done actually a pretty good job, like Kevin was saying. They're turning it around with a skeleton crew.
Oh, I agree, and that's the only reason he's there. I mean, they know Tortorella is a good coach. Yarmo knows he's a good coach, or else he's not there.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right about that. Let me make a few points about this to kind of put this all in context, because sometimes with all the rant and everything, we forget some factors here. Number one, he is an exceptional coach.
Yes.
You talk to anybody who's played for him, and he gets a lot out of his talent. And contrary to popular opinion, even though he's hard on players, a lot of players like playing for him.
Sure.
For some reason, this is not a Mike Babcock situation.
Yeah.
Jones, for example, likes John Tortorella, and there are plenty of players on that team. He's kind of, even though he's hard on players sort of view him as a kind of a player's coach, because
I think he's more honest, Kev. He's more honest than a Mike Babcock. Babcock will be veiled a lot of time with things that he says and things that he does. Torts will do it exactly the way he does it and really doesn't change. And that's fine.
And the other thing is he's also a lot different than he was when he started, because Zach made this point, but let's make it even more clear. He was explosive when he's with Tampa. He could lose control. He didn't seem to care what he said. And now he's a lot more controlled than he was. The other thing I'd bring up.
But Kev, remember that when he was with the Rangers the first year, didn't he douse a fan with water in a water bottle?
Yeah. That's
he's going to do that, and the players love when he does that kind of stuff.
The guy was thirsty, Russ.
Players see him as like he'll say something that we can't say. I think.
So, he's a lot better. But this is the final point that I was going to make, and one that I can't prove, but I believe it to be true. I think, and I know he won a cup with that Tampa Bay team, I think this is his all-time favorite team. And I have this impression by watching him and listening to him talk about these players. I think he likes all these guys, and I think he believes in them, and I think he thinks they can win it all because they just have the kind of chemistry that he likes, and I think it'll make a difference. And with regard to for Anthony Duclair, I would say, and again, I don't have any proof of this, but if we asked John Tortorella how he feels about that now, he'd say, I made him a better player.
Yeah.
Won him out.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, everyone knew Anthony Duclair had talent and skill. I mean, he was I in my 30 wacky predictions like 3 years ago said he would be an all-star, and I'm late, but hey. Because
playing time too.
Did you specify AHL or NHL?
No, because there are some highlight videos you will see of Anthony Duclair that will blow your mind. You'll see
playing time to be able to become an
all-star. Right, you'll see that. And Kevin's right. This is not just Tortorella liking these players. He also likes the whole concept of Columbus, I think the working like class Columbus situation, and the fact that Columbus also has like, there's nothing a coach likes more than being able to say he's a superstar, he doesn't want to play for us, fine, go somewhere else, we're going to win without you. I mean, that's something that I think plays into Tortorella's psyche.
That's right up his alley.
Yeah, he likes that. He's like, yeah, we don't Panarin. Panarin, sure, he's a great player, but I got other players here that want to play. He can legitimately say that in that situation, which is something you hear said a lot, but he can actually say that. That plays right up. I mean, I think he really likes Yarmo and Zito and all those guys too. I think they are, and it's funny, and they must like him too, because at the end of the day, he is a coach that players like, who have success with him, and he's a coach that players hate, who don't have success with him, as well too. And he definitely, I mean, he's taking years of Girardi's life off of him, right? I mean, he'll take a piece of it.
I think Kevin made a good point too by saying now incoming referees are going to be worse to him.
Yeah.
I don't know that they were ever nice to him, so I think that
but they're going to be worse for a little while.
But here's a question I'd love to get your thoughts on it, particularly Russ, who's kind of been in the inside of this. But I've heard basketball coaches have told me directly that one of the reasons why they do crazy things like get in officials' faces and get teed up all the time is because they really believe that if you don't do that, you won't get the next call. If you do that, I've never had a hockey coach tell me that.
No.
So do they believe that, or I mean, is that, do you think that's part of it, that they get bored trying to get the next call?
I don't think they believe it like a basketball coach or a football coach.
Yeah,
those two coaches in those leagues believe it. It doesn't work for managers in baseball. I think that's been clear for a long time.
Yeah.
And hockey, I've never had a coach sort of say that, like, well, that helped me get this down the line. I think you're right.
In baseball, I can give you the example of this year. I know for a fact that the Yankees didn't get as many calls after Aaron Boone started yelling at the umpires and Brett Gardner started hitting the top of the dugout with the baseball bat. He made one reference and they kicked him out of the game, and they were very antagonistic towards Boone. So in baseball, Earl Weaver would not fly today.
I mean, here's the thing too. Like, you're talking about two other sports in baseball, basketball and football, where I think coaches feel that referees can call either like holding on every play, or they can call a foul on almost every play. And there's more things I think that a referee can go your way or not go your way on in an ambivalent way. You know what I mean? Like, there's
say this though.
Than hockey, right? I mean, hockey generally has like pretty. I mean, you could call that a trip or not a trip, but it's a lot different than a hold or a foul.
True. There is one call on hockey though that I've seen coaches influence, but they won't tell us that, but I've seen it. And that is the delay of game when players are supposedly throwing the puck over the ice on purpose. Flyers game last night with Vegas, when Alain Vigneault felt that happened, instead of yelling, he stood on top of the bench and just made himself noticed. So the refs all huddled up and then said, and this is at a big point in the game, this is giving them a 6-on-3 with not much time left in the game. And the refs huddled up and said, yeah, you know what? We think that was a delay of game. Now, Vigneault didn't do that. I kind of wonder if they would have done that because they were acting lukewarm before that. So I think on that kind of call, it can be a little bit of a help.
Perhaps. I mean, I always think that coaches should complain a little bit, because I do think that, I mean, I don't know. Is it Kevin? You're a soccer person too. As a girls soccer coach, I'm the last person. I'm always I'm the guy who doesn't yell at every single ticky tack thing. A referee. I'm not the kind of guy who's looking for calls. But yeah, and I've coached against guys who are those every ticky tack, and I've seen referees, just get sick of them and basically say, okay, fine.
Yeah, I don't know. With soccer, my wife was a coach for 20 years in high school. And I always felt that she used to get calls because she was such a nice person.
Yeah.
She treated officials with great respect. And I don't know, like the officials before and after the game always had time to talk to my wife. And, I remember one particular where I thought it was an incredibly offside play that they let go. And I've always joked with her that she got that call for all the niceness, because, she was not one either to do it. I don't know, and we're being a little bit cavalier about, like I don't think any of us are suggesting that referees hold the grudges forever. I to me, when I talk about this not getting the calls, I just think it's human nature, and subconsciously, if a guy's screaming at you all the time, you're just not inclined to give them the benefit of the doubt. That's all I'm suggesting, because I think for the most part, I've had to explain this for years that most readers think that we care and we slant our coverage toward one team or another. I've been accused in my years of being pro all 31 teams in the league at one time or another, if depending on what had happened. And I always tell them, you give us too much credit for caring about the outcome. We root, and as journalists, you root for the story. I mean, I'm
breaking news too.
Yeah. Okay.
So Emily Kaplan's reporting that Jim Montgomery is entering rehab for alcohol abuse.
Okay.
So now we know that stemmed into whatever else happened as to why he was fired.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, just because there's been a lot of coach firings and situations. It was a remarkable, and we're not drawing any conclusions from this news, but the thing is, it was remarkable, Kev. It was almost a month ago, and there was literally nothing, not a word, even off the record from people about why Montgomery was fired. It was remarkable. I was stunned. It's like nobody knew or nobody would say anything.
I heard a lot of rumblings, and a few of them led in this direction, but I kept my mouth shut. I honestly did.
Well, I think everybody in the hockey world knows what went on, but what should be remembered here is, and this is what I would say, the same behavior by a player would not have caused them any issue.
Sure.
And the difference is that players are protected by the CBA, and the coach is an employee of the team.
Right.
And every time he's on the road, he's representing the team. So in that regard, he's held to a higher standard. A player, you can discipline a player, but you can't get rid of them like the Dallas Stars did of their coach.
Yeah. Montgomery released a statement. It's brief. I'll just read part of it here. It says, losing my job as head coach of the Dallas Stars last month was a wake-up call. It was also the appropriate call. I let my team's front office, staff, and players down. More importantly, I let my wife and my family down. The team's decision to end my role forced me to look into the mirror and decide whether I wanted to continue living a damaging lifestyle or get help. I decided to get help. So there you go.
Yeah, and that's why everybody kept saying he's a good coach, because at least we're able to say he didn't affect any players, past or present.
Well, yeah, I mean, they did go out of their way to point out he did nothing illegal, and all that. And I think that the alcohol rehab is a root of the issue. I think the behavior went beyond that.
Yeah. I think
Kev, getting off of this and talking about like some of the individual teams right now. I mean, a lot of news over the last 24 hours regarding the Sabres because they made a few deals. They had been looking for forward help for most of the season. They swapped Marco Scandella, a pending UFA, to Montreal for a draft pick, then turn around and trade the draft pick to Calgary for Michael Frolik. And the same day that they do that, they lose their second highest scoring forward in Victor Olofsson looked like a high ankle sprain. So now Olofsson is out, Skinner is out, and I mean, honestly, I thought the Sabres were borderline playoff team, and Eichel has been playing great of late, but he cannot do it by himself. It's Edmonton of the East. They don't have enough guys.
Yeah, no, that's a tough loss for them, Olofsson, especially for a team that needs all hands on deck in order to make the playoffs. So but I like the trade. Frolik is just a good hockey player.
Yes,
yes.
Just a smart player. Does everything well. He's not going to be a difference maker, but he's going to be a contributor, a significant contributor to your success. So I think it's the kind of move you make if you feel you're close. So they must feel confident in this team. And I'm still bullish on the Sabres. I think they're headed in the right direction. And but losing Olofsson, I think that's a tough situation. They're not the Pittsburgh Penguins that are resilient enough to.
No. And I think we learned something here, though, Kev. I think the thing that we've learned here is we knew that Buffalo had been trying to make a trade for a while. We knew that Montreal was trying to make moves for a while. And it took 3 teams to make moves, to make marginal moves for anything to happen this early. And I think that's
4 teams. Yeah. Because Ottawa had to take Mike Riley off the Canadiens' hands.
Right. So I think that's why when fans of, let's say, the Flyers say, well, Chuck Fletcher has to make a move, I'm sure he's been trying all along, but he has no cap space to do it. And so it could take another month for a team like the Flyers to make one move. That's the point.
Well, I have a suggestion.
Yes.
I suggest that in July, let's make it a 3rd week in July, so we'll get through free agency, that they hold the symposium with John Chaika, Jim Rutherford, and David Poyle sitting at the front explaining how to make trades.
That's a great point.
Because you got 2 veteran guys who always seem to find ways to manipulate their salary cap and to easily make moves. And then we have a young guy who's come in and made just an incredible number of trades. Now, some of them are minor, but when you look at John's list of trades, it's amazing the number of deals he's made.
And I would add Doug Wilson to the list, but I think, what I think has to come into play for that? Well, he's able to make trades, Mike, whether we like him or not. He's always been able to. Part of that has to do with the GM's personality and how many friends he's made in the league. Because now Chaika being a new one, clearly he never really pissed off anybody, so teams were always willing to listen to him. The other guys we've talked about are very personable, and they know all these other GMs. And so they're willing to listen and bend a little more for a guy like that, knowing that there could be something in the future, too. If you're one of those GMs that have screwed another GM, like when Kevin Lowe did it, or other things like that, that does hurt your ability to make deals down the road.
But it isn't all about that. Otherwise,
no.
Ken Holland would have been a great trader.
Your cap guy. Your cap guy has to be really good, too.
Well, but I mean, Ken Holland is one of the most respected, nicest guys. Everybody likes him and everything else. And he just never made trades. I think there's an art to it. But I think you're right. I mean, it helps. You have to have, good rapport with everybody. And all 3 of those people that we want to put on the roster are known as, real nice guys, easy to get along with. But I also think there is, the art of making a deal, if I can use that without political unrest.
If Ken Hitchcock and Lindy Ruff were GMs, they would never make a deal with each other for obvious reasons, right?
Yeah, no, that's right.
Don't you think there's some ego involved here? Like, I mean, with Chaika, I always think about, okay, I know the GMs, they hate being taken by another GM, and they all think that they're smarter than everybody else, and yet they all think that Chaika is so young and he can't possibly take me in a trade. I got him. I can make a deal here with him. I'm not worried that it's going to come back and bite me. Plus, it's Arizona anyway. Who cares? It's not like we're trading him to the Rangers or the.
It could be. That could be a factor.
I think that the team and the fact that he's younger and and they just feel like they're smarter than him. Like I'm smarter than that kid, so I can make this trade. That I'm going to be right. He's going to be wrong.
Well, I had a lawyer friend, and he always talked about whenever he'd win a case with another lawyer, he always would go over and say, you just didn't have the facts on your side. There was nothing you could do. Like, you did the best possible defense that you could put up in this, but the facts were on my side, and I really admire the job you did. It could have been a lot worse if not for the fact you were really good. And that's what happens in these trades. Like, I'm always at the end, the other guy says, it's not like I gave up chopped liver. He gave, he's got some good players back. And, I think that's part of the part of the code. Like, you've got to you got to give the other guy enough so that he can sell it to his fan base as well. If you want to go back to that person to make a trade again.
I thought the Ottawa situation last year was one of the more untenable situations a team could have, being as bad as they were, having a lot of UFAs and not having their own first-round pick. Kev, the San Jose Sharks are in that position this year. Yeah. They have a ton of talent, It's just not working. They fired their coach. The new coach is not doing any better than the old coach, and Ottawa has their first round pick.
Yeah. It's they're in double jeopardy, purgatory. They're in a mess here. And I watched that team the other night. They got shut out by Detroit, the worst team in the league, and they just didn't look like a team that was going to go anyway. And the sad thing about it, and I think what's really handcuffing them is, having 30% of their salary cap tied up with 3 defensemen. The loss of Pavelski is clearly hurt them in 2 ways. One, it's hurt their offense, but secondly, it appears it's been created a leadership vacuum as well. They tried to change it up, but it hasn't worked.
Yeah, I think it's like Jaws 4 now. I do.
Yeah, it's not good.
Michael Caine.
No,
I'm not sure if Michael Caine was in that. I'll look that up.
I tell you though, I think this is the year Joe Thornton should say to them, "Yeah, go ahead, send me somewhere else that I got to."
Yeah, you're right, Mike. And Mario Van Peebles, I don't even remember that.
No, I think you're right. He might say that to him. I mean,
yeah. Well, I mean, he's had a miserable year, but I mean, I can't imagine Joe Thornton couldn't help some contender as still a great playmaker.
Yeah, and if you need power play, like help in the power play, he's going to help you.
Well,
I mean, there's good things he can definitely do.
Dylan and Melker Carlson are also UFA too. They probably could get decent returns.
I'll tell you, Dylan is going to get a lot of interest.
He will get it.
People he's a feisty player, and
Wilson's going to have a hard time letting him go. They're going to.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they'd like to re-sign him.
And Carlson's like enough of a veteran where some winner would want him.
But the problem is that you're trading off players and you don't have your first round pick, and it's like you're going to get assets for those players, but all you're doing is improving Ottawa's chances of drafting Alexis Lafreniere. So
right, and in this draft, there's nothing San Jose could trade to get a first round pick in this draft.
Right.
Bill in our chat room thinks that Thornton should be traded back to the Bruins. That would be a story and a half. That would be.
That would be.
Never accept that trade.
That would be a fun story there. I like that.
I'll tell you, there's no way Joe Thornton would ever play for the Bruins. I would be 100% shocked.
Yeah, I don't. Anything can happen,
No, I mean, there's some limits, Zach.
But Thornton's not kind of. I don't think he really holds grudges.
I don't know.
I don't think he's the kind of guy who cares enough to really make that mean anything. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just Joe is so laid back. It's kind of ridiculous. He is,
but I think that's the one place he wouldn't go.
I'm not sure. I'm really not sure about that. I had something kind of interesting here that I thought was kind of fun. We can kind of end the show with this. We'll get Kevin back in a sec. He's
taking a phone call, I think.
No worries at all. So I saw this on Reddit, and I kind of liked it. It was the calendar year of 2019, and the cumulative league standings, where you're just to take the year 2019, which means the second half of last year, the first half of this year, essentially. It's kind of interesting, where some teams fall on this list.
St. Louis would probably have the best record.
St. Louis does. They have 123 points cumulatively. Who do you think would be second?
And this is what's the time frame again?
This is just the year 2019. So you're just looking at basically starting last January.
Okay, from last January to now.
Boston
I think would be second.
Boston is second. Boston's at 119. So they're 4 points behind the Blues. So they're your 2 Stanley Cup finalists last year. Kind of interesting.
Washington's
fourth with 112 points. It's a pretty good drop off there, when you think about it.
It's not enough that you'd worry about it, though.
Yeah, I mean, a drop off from I'm just saying from the Bruins, it's still 7 points there. You're looking at a 7-point difference there, essentially. But yeah, so the Blues first. We're getting Kevin back in.
I'm going to say the Avalanche.
The Avalanche, they're not high on this list at all. They have 94 points in the calendar year.
Vegas
93 points in the calendar year. So you've gotten 3 of the top 4, but there are some really good. With Vegas over there, the Flyers. The Flyers are not in the. Let's see,
No, they shouldn't be there.
They're about. I think they're 10th on this list, somewhere around there.
No way, it's Toronto, because Toronto had a bad second half and a bad first half this year.
And here's the interesting thing: the Flyers have 96 points in the last calendar year. The Maple Leafs have 95 in the last calendar year.
Yeah.
So the Flyers and Maple Leafs are like 11th.
They both may end up in the same place this year.
They would be 11th and 12th. What we're talking about, Kevin, here is that if we were just take the calendar year of points for 2019, so second half of last year, first half of this year, the Blues first 123, the Bruins second 119, the Caps fourth at 112. You guys still have the third team.
What about Winnipeg?
I think
they're 94. So Flyers 96 points.
I think our
Jets 94.
I think our friend in the chat might be right. Our friend Frank. How about the Arizona Coyotes? Because second half of last year they were hot.
All right, the Coyotes are 9th on the list.
Okay,
they have 98 points.
I'm actually surprised they're not better.
Yeah, 98 points in the last in the year 2019 so far. But yeah, that's a third place team.
Tampa.
It's not the Capitals.
No, the Caps are the fourth place team. The third.
What about Tampa?
Tampa would be 5th at 110.
Who was third?
Third? It's an Eastern Conference team. I'll give you that.
Carolina
at 112.
Yeah.
So the Hurricanes, third best in the last, so I'll give you the quick list. Is so the Bruins, the Blues, Bruins, Hurricanes, Capitals, Lightning, top 5. 6th would be the Islanders at 110. 7th, the Penguins at 104. Flames are 8th at 100, and then the Coyotes at 98 would be 9th, and the Stars 97 points would be that would fill out your top 10. The bottom 5 teams. Buffalo is third from the bottom. So they would be 29th, I guess. Detroit would be 31st. Detroit has 60 points. So that's less than half the points the Blues have in the year 2019.
LA is
there's 6 there. They're 25th. But Ottawa, yeah. So Ottawa's 30th. So you have the Red Wings 31st, Ottawa 30th, the Sabres 29th, the Devils at 28th. The Devils, and then the Ducks and the Kings. And then the Rangers. So that's your bottom list. So, yeah, it is kind of.
Proof. If you're out of that top 10, you're pretty much a bubble team still.
Yeah. I mean, I thought the Preds would be better. They're at 94 points.
Something about the Predators. Since I was in their locker room a fair amount for the Winter Classic, they have a lot of passengers on that team. They have totally tuned out Peter Laviolette. When he used to be able to call a timeout and it would have an effect in the game, he did it during the Winter Classic. It looked like it was the perfect time. It changed nothing. That team has some issues there, and I don't think they're going to get solved this year. I don't.
Well, I wanted to get Kev's thoughts on this before we end the show. I've seen turnarounds before in terms of a coaching change, and you get the bump that a new coach will bring. I don't think I've seen, other than Berube last year, and it took a month or so for the Blues to turn it around. I haven't seen as dramatic a turnaround as Sheldon Keefe with the Leafs. He's 14-4-1. They're scoring over 4 goals a game. They were bottom half of the league on power play. Now they're number 1 since the change. Their penalty killing is better. Their goaltending is better. I mean, Kev, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, does it say more about the guy who came in or the guy who left?
I think that's a lot to do with it.
Yeah, I think that this Maple Leaf team is so excited to sort of have the shackles off, and I just think it's fun to come to the rink again. And I don't think people were having fun, and that was the difference. And I'm writing a story now about the Penguins' winning culture, and one of the things that's kind of emerged from this is that one of the reasons why the Penguins managed are so resilient is that it's always so enjoyable to be on that team.
And Kev, I'll give you another one. People wanted me to say it on the show, and I've said it before, but as an example, like signing John Marino as a free agent, teams would kill to have an extra defenseman like that with 18 points and offensive ability. He's a plus 15. If you wonder how the Penguins are surviving, that's one of the reasons, guys like that.
Yeah, and you have one goaltender who's won 2 Stanley Cups before the age of 24, and another one who was their second-round pick, who's having one of the best years in the league. And they've got to choose one of them because one, if they hold on to both of them, they're going to lose in the expansion.
They get mileage out of guys. Dominic Simone, they get mileage out of guys.
And this goes back years, like they've been able to do this. They find guys and they can make trades. And
wow, it's amazing. It is. It is a culture. And Crosby skated today, by the way, with a practice or with the
And everybody said, "Hey, Gensel out now 4 to 6 months. They're in trouble." I don't think they're in trouble.
No, I don't either.
We have a question for Kevin. When we'll get out of here with this question, it's from our Red Wing, one of our Red Wings diehards, Funky Cold Zini in the chat room, who wants to know, Kevin, who will have more points this year? The Detroit Red Wings or the Detroit Tigers? Who have more wins? The Detroit Red Wings or the Detroit Tigers?
Well, they have to be double.
That's going to be very close. Yeah. No, I mean, I think that the Tigers took a major league. I mean, signing Cron and Shoop, that's 45 home runs. So
right.
Like that'll give them the edge.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
I like that cost-effective signing of that guy Cole. The Yankees made a real bang for the buck there.
Yeah, I mean he's a heck of a pitcher, and that's going to be great for about 4 years.
He's getting fire money. That's what's happening.
Yeah, well, I mean, those contracts you have to look at them, and you're basically paying that guy that length. The total money should be viewed as over 4 years or 5 years. Yeah,
nice. So. Yeah, for sure. All right, guys, all the time we have for today. Thank you so much, Kevin, for joining us. As always, we will be back on Monday. And enjoy the weekend, guys. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk